There she was again, my mother, teaching me that last lesson just when I wasn't looking. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters, family, friends, and guests. My mother taught me about forgiveness. It was only 2 years ago, and I had everything. I have a wonderful husband, a daughter that makes me smile, and a beautiful home. We had a huge backyard and a dog. His name is Chocolate Chip. I love my life, I love my career, and it seemed like everything that I was working so hard for had finally come into fruition. And then the bottom fell out. I was losing my home. I was mortified. I was embarrassed. I was depressed. I'll tell you about my mother. My mother is everything to me. As a little girl, she was my ultimate hero. And as an adult, my very best friend. There isn't anything she wouldn't do for us. Like now, she says, I have a novel idea. I have this huge house. I have all this space. I'm living in it by myself. I can use the help. Why not come live with me? Seemed like a kismet opportunity. And so with that, we moved in with my mother. So you ask, how is this about forgiveness? Psychologists define forgiveness as that concise and deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or a group of persons who have done harm to us, whether or not we believe they deserve our forgiveness. Easier said than done. Show of hands for anybody that thinks that forgiving is easy. Exactly. Forgiving is hard work. So we move in with my mother. What we had found out was something was happening to my mother that we didn't know for quite some time. This beautiful, tenacious, and brilliant woman was suffering from a disease known as dementia. Dementia is a deterioration of the mind as we know it. How many of you know anyone living with this debilitating disease? And then you know how painful it is to watch, and even more so to endure. My mother was on this constant rotation of frustration because her home, which was once this familiar territory, had become a foreign land. And with that, anyone that lived in it. It was during this time my mother and I did not see eye to eye. Can I tell you, we argued every single day. There wasn't a day that I wasn't lying to her, stealing from her, destroying her property. And we were intruders in her home. We had to tiptoe past her just to make peace. I had to remind myself, this isn't my mother. She's there, but her mind, it's withering away. Here I was at the lowest point of my life, and I needed to find a way to be strong for her. I had to find a release. So I started writing, just writing. And I realized there was one thing I needed to do. I needed to learn to forgive my mother every single day. Because every day she would say, "You're doing something." And I knew I wasn't. I had to find a way to forgive her because she would insist I was wrong about everything. And she would hold on to a vengeance like a dog with a bone. Can I tell you, it was a tumultuous experience, but at the same time, one of the most liberating. Here's one thing that I know. Forgiving is a superpower. You have to be incredibly strong and brave to be able to release someone that's done harm to you. And holding on to resentment is toxic. How do you define forgiveness? I even asked a few of my closest friends, how do you perceive this concept of forgiveness? And there was one word that permeated their conversation: unconditional love. I read this once. Death of an ego is birth to a vision. I imagine this bird with a broken leg in a cage with the gate wide open. Just fly. I had to tell myself. I had to let go of my ego. I had to let go of my anger just so that I could be my best self for her. Because the hurt, it just gets in the way. I'm happy to say I am now in another new, beautiful home. I have my wonderful husband, and my daughter makes me laugh every day. We have our backyard, and I still have chocolate chip. My mother passed away last year, but not before teaching me one of the most ultimate lessons of life. Not only did she teach me about unconditional love, she taught me about forgiving. The book of Forgiving says, forgiving is the innate preservance of happiness. I get it now. Forgiving is not something that we do for others. It's something that we do for ourselves. Thank you, Mom, for teaching me that last lesson just when I wasn't looking. Madam Toastmaster.